So we have some really interesting conversation here that I think actually does make a little bit of sense, but we gotta dive into it to be sure. Today we're talking about the Montreal Canadiens in some sort of a later video here today. Mostly because, out of all the teams that are playing pre-season hockey in the National Hockey League, Montreal does not happen to be one of them. Calgary, by the way, they've got 2 games against the Edmonton Oilers today. Some are at home, others are on the road. It's a filled day today when it comes to NHL pre-season action. Say what you want about whether or not this series of games will actually mean anything. But what I wanted to do was talk about a Montreal Canadiens young forward and describe the potential interest the Flames have reportedly had in him. We're heading over to an article published on donlescoulisses.com from about a week ago. This was published by Jonathan DeGregorio, and it talks about how the Calgary Flames would really like Kirby Dach to get back into shape. This piece will be linked in the description. It's French translated into English for the purposes of this YouTube video. I don't know if you noticed, but this channel is kind of English speaking. But the article dives into the Kirby Dach situation, and it's kind of funny because this is from about a week ago, which means that a lot of the understanding that we as fans have on Kirby Dach right now, at this present moment, wasn't really there when this article was written. I understand that training camp and practices in Brassard, they're not the be-all and end-all. They don't definitively give us any conclusions here, but it is kind of intriguing to see just where things were about a week ago, when I was in Taiwan and when I was freaking out over my lack of YouTube views and everything, and you know, that's still kind of going on here. So if you have any sort of ratings or comments to leave in the comment section below, then hey, I really appreciate that. It helps us out with the algorithm. But this article dives into what Marco D'Amico had to say on the Sean Starr Show. The Kirby Dach case has been the subject of much discussion this summer. Many are wondering if the center will start the season on time due to his knee injury. But most of all, people are wondering if, when he returns to his game, Dach will be able to be the pivot of a second line and complement the work of Demidov and Laine. Yeah, we had the same questions a week ago. We're kind of getting those answers now, but still, this is what D'Amico discussed on the Sean Starr Show podcast, and it links the video segment in the body of the piece. The article then goes over the history. How Dach was a former Blackhawk and how he was 3rd overall, and then inevitably the Canadiens traded for this guy. They essentially traded Alexander Romanov for a draft pick and then the draft pick for Dach, and then that first-round pick that Chicago received became Frank Nazar. Lots of history there. We've been talking about this for years. The article talks about Nazar, and then it says, let's just say the Canadiens would like to have him as a second center. So it's clear that Kent Hughes will want to maximize his return on Kirby Dach and not lose Frank Nazar for nothing. Moreover, according to D'Amico, the center could interest a team like the Calgary Flames, who are looking for this type of right-handed tall player. If Dach has a good start to the season, this is the kind of team that could be interested in acquiring him during the next campaign. However, if the 24-year-old performs well this year on the second line, the Canadiens might also be less inclined to trade him since it would partially solve the team's second-line center problem. Ultimately, it will depend on Dach's performance. If he can reach his true potential, produce consistently, and provide a good source of fuel for his line mates, the second-line solution could already be found within the team. Furthermore, D'Amico believes that the Habs are in no rush to acquire a second-line center, as the trade market is likely to become active at the end of November when several teams who do not expect to make the playoffs will quickly become sellers, particularly to maximize their chances of winning the Gavin McKenna lottery. And that also is another aspect that we've brought up a bunch, how, hey, the trade market kind of stunk this summer. It was a very boring offseason. Nothing happened. The biggest trade was like, what, the Dakota Joshua trade? Like, Nothing really went down that was of significance this offseason in regards to player movement around the National Hockey League. It's not like last year where we had offer sheets and a bunch of really good trade speculation. This year, all the trade speculation revolved around 3 guys: Crosby, McTavish, and Marco Rossi. I mean, it was so boring. And the fact that we were even able to still make YouTube videos and sustain any form of a conversation throughout the summer is something that I'm proud of. So, of course, it is kind of ridiculous to see things continue into the regular season here. But we all understand just how the dynamic works here. Teams are wanting to be competitive. Teams are very interested in seeing what they have. And then inevitably, when things go south, and you ultimately see the teams that wanted to compete fail to compete, then they start to say, okay, maybe we actually can sell. We got no chance at this. Let's get Gavin McKenna. That guy's going to be the next franchise generational guy, and I don't necessarily know if I want to toss labels like that around anymore, considering Gavin McKenna's cousin hasn't been doing all too well so far. Anyways, Kirby Dach, Calgary Flame, eh? I do understand the rationale here. There is some sort of a link. I wouldn't be surprised if the Flames were one of the teams that scouted Dach heavily when Dach was a draft-eligible prospect. I mean, Kirby was playing out of the Fort Saskatchewan Rangers and inevitably the Saskatoon Blades as a junior hockey player. I'm not saying that Calgary, Alberta is close by to Fort Saskatchewan and Saskatoon, but it is in that middle Canada area. They're only separated by a few provinces there. I get it, a few provinces isn't anything to scoff at, but still, Kirby Dach, Western Canadian kid, middle Canadian kid, I guess you could say, and said, yeah, Saskatoon, right? Flat, middle Canada, lots of nothing everywhere, but Calgary definitely does do their scouting in the dub in a pretty big capacity. And thinking about Kirby Dach, big center, potentially a guy to come in there and play alongside of a Coronado or a Connor Zary, there definitely can be some Calgary Flames representation that is welcomed within the profile of Kirby Dach. We gotta face the music, man. Mikael Backlund is not going to last forever, nor is Nazem Kadri. These guys are not necessarily the biggest dudes. If Kirby Dach were to have the quote-unquote FU mentality that he had spoken about, and he's able to provide that first-line caliber play on the second line, there's no reason why 31 NHL teams wouldn't be interested in this player. He was 3rd overall for a reason, folks. This guy was supposed to be a top-line player, a Ryan Getzlaf-like type of guy. Really big, soft hands, great playmaking ability, not necessarily like a brute force. You think, oh, he's big, he's got to be physical? Not necessarily. Ryan Getzlaf wasn't that. Kirby Dach, it's true that he did say that he has an FU mentality when he plays his best, but that was not really the things that made him so effective in the WHL. It was more his soft hands and playmaking. And for Calgary, I mean, if you're able to get 2 strong playmakers like Huberdeau of yesteryear and a Kirby Dach together, there could be some pretty good chemistry with whomever it is rounds out that line. Maybe toss an Igor Sharangovich and get him to 20 goals on a year. Maybe Matthew Coronado gets to 30 every single year. Joel Farabee even. He's a sniper. He's got a really good scoring ability. There's a lot to like out of what the Flames could do if Dach finds his groove. But I did find it interesting that Marco D'Amico mentioned on the Sean Starr show that, hey, Calgary, they would be interested in Kirby Dach if he's able to round out his game and become better. As if 31 other teams would not be interested in this guy. 30, actually. Yeah. Minus Calgary and Montreal. That makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? So, heading into today's games, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Kirby Dach and the idea that Calgary will be interested in him. Again, if you have any sort of ratings or comments to leave in the comments section, hey, that's appreciated. It helps us out with the algorithm. I hope you enjoyed this British Ashroll sign on. And bye.